8.3 Cyclone Navigation. The storm is an unavoidable evil in our profession. In order not to get into extreme storm conditions, the navigator must have complete information about the weather along the entire route of the voyage, and such information is available thanks to WMO. By receiving all the meteorological information, we can assess and calculate the situation in order to avoid a meeting with a cyclone or its dangerous side, and if a meeting is unavoidable, make it as safe as possible. To do this, you need to know the elementary rules of discrepancy with the cyclone, which this lesson is devoted to. 3.1 Dangerous and navigational sides of the cyclone. In the northern hemisphere, the wind in the cyclone circulates counterclockwise, so the winds on the right side of the storm add up and conditions are much more severe than on its left side. Therefore, the right side of the cyclone is called the dangerous side, and the left side is called the navigation side. In the southern hemisphere, the wind in the cyclone circulates clockwise, and all processes occur in the opposite direction. Therefore, the dangerous side of the cyclone will be on its northern, left, side, and the right side, respectively, will be navigational. When the storm leaves you on its right, dangerous side, the direction of the wind tends to push your boat towards the center of the cyclone, where the winds are even stronger. On the navigable side of the storm, on the contrary, pushes you out to lighter conditions. In cyclonic storms, winds up to 40 to 50 knots are not uncommon. Maneuvering against such a wind and a large wave on the dangerous side of the storm, if there is not enough power of the main engine, is sometimes simply impossible. A simple rule should be remembered: the farther the ship is from the center of the cyclone, the better. Use this rule when it's hard to tell which side of the storm's path you're on. Just move away from the line of movement of the center of the cyclone. 3.2 Rules for the navigation with a tropical cyclone. The general rule is that a ship, having fallen under the influence of an approaching tropical cyclone, should strive to get out of its path and move as far as possible from the center and dangerous quarter of the cyclone. As mentioned above, in the northern hemisphere, the most dangerous is the right part of the cyclone, and especially the anterior right first quarter of the tropical cyclone, and in the southern hemisphere, the left anterior fourth quarter. In these quarters, the wind is strongest and blows the ship towards the center of the tropical hurricane. In even worse conditions, the center of a tropical cyclone, its speed, and direction of its movement are taken from the synoptic map. However, the center and dangerous quarter can be determined empirically according to the following rules. 1. If in the northern hemisphere one becomes facing in the direction of the wind, then the center of the cyclone will be approximately 60 degrees to the left, and in the southern hemisphere to the right of the wind direction. As the center of the hurricane approaches, this angle increases and reaches 90 degrees or more. 2. If in the northern hemisphere, when pressure drops, the wind changes its direction clockwise, the ship is in the most dangerous quarter. In the southern hemisphere, a ship is in a dangerous quarter if the wind changes its direction counterclockwise when pressure drops. 3. If the direction of the wind does not change but its strength increases, with a drop in pressure, then the vessel is in the path of the approaching center of the cyclone. 4. If the pressure rises, then the center of the cyclone has passed. If at the same time, the wind changes its direction clockwise, then in the northern hemisphere the vessel is in the right, in the southern hemisphere, in the left, rear quarter of the cyclone, and if the wind changes its direction counterclockwise, then in the northern hemisphere the vessel is in the left, in the southern hemisphere, in the right, rear quarter. If it was not possible to determine the quarter in which the ship is located, then for greater safety it should be assumed that the ship is in the most dangerous quarter. In this case, in the northern hemisphere, it is recommended to change the path so that the wind blows from the forward heading angles of the starboard side. In the southern hemisphere, the port side. If, upon further clarification, it turns out that the vessel is in the left front part of the cyclone, then the heading wind angles should be increased to stern. In my opinion, these techniques are somewhat outdated for the 21st century and inaccurate. Now all vessels are equipped with the GMDSS system and receive all hydrometeorological information in a timely manner and in sufficient volume. With the obtained surface analysis, the center of the cyclone and the vector of its daily movement are plotted on the general map. Since UNSF are getting a surface forecast where the pros have already figured out where the center of the cyclone is likely to be in the 6, 12, and 24 hours, you can clear the typhoon well in advance to avoid increased risk. It is important to control the change in the trajectory of the cyclone in those cases when the ship is near the area of the cyclone turn. Storm warnings contain information about the upcoming intensification of wind and waves to dangerous levels and are transmitted by hydrometeorological centers at least every 12 hours. Information about tropical cyclones, as the most dangerous phenomena, is transmitted every 2 to 3 hours. This information allows you to regularly update your current general situation for proper maneuvering. Tropical cyclone rules. In the northern hemisphere, note counterclockwise wind. The numbering of quarters in the northern and southern hemispheres starts from the right front quarter from the direction of the cyclone, which is assigned Roman 1 and goes clockwise, 2, 3, 4. 1. If the ship can cross the typhoon's line of motion in advance, i.e. far from its center and go to the least dangerous left front, fourth quarter of the cyclone, it should cross the TC track at a right angle, increasing the speed to the maximum, wind and wave at the stern course angles to help you. 2. If the ship is in the most dangerous first quarter of a tropical cyclone, then you should change course to exit the dangerous sector, bringing the wind to starboard and the path of the cyclone to the perpendicular to your path. Option A. This is the fastest divergence, but not always safe because the wind and wave will be steep to starboard. The exit to the second quarter of the cyclone is softer but longer. Option B. 3. If the ship is approaching the cyclone from its most dangerous first quarter, reverse course, and run away as soon as possible. Having brought the center of the typhoon to the right aft corner, change the course under the stern of the cyclone and further exit to your own course. 4. If the vessel is in the left front fourth quarter of a tropical cyclone, one should strive to get away from the center of the cyclone in a way perpendicular to the path of its movement, bringing the wind to the starboard side. 5. If the ship is in the port forward fourth quarter of a tropical cyclone and cannot keep its track perpendicular to the path of the cyclone, then the wind should be brought to the stern course angles of the starboard side and go at full speed. 6. If the vessel catches up with a tropical cyclone, you need to reduce the speed, bringing the wind to the port side, and wait until the cyclone leaves. 7. In the southern hemisphere, clockwise wind, so the dangerous sector and maneuvering are mirrored. Conclusion: conditionally, the divergence from the cyclone is made according to the COLREGs, port sides, taking into account the fact that the latter should be considered as a vessel deprived of the ability to steer. Summary: 1. In the northern hemisphere, counterclockwise wind, the right side of the cyclone is dangerous, especially the first quarter, the left side is navigational. In the southern hemisphere, clockwise wind, on the contrary, the left side is dangerous with a steep forequarter, the right side is navigational. 2. If you have not taken the navigation side in advance, it is not recommended to do this when you are already under the influence of a cyclone. Just disperse, run away, especially from the most dangerous quarter. 3. They diverge from the cyclone, as a ship deprived of the ability to be controlled, either on the left sides, or give way. 4. General rule, keep away from the center of the cyclone, the farther the better, and do not cross the road, and if you cross, then in advance with a guaranteed handicap in time. Good luck, colleagues.